Two friends, same age, same salary, same savings. One decided to open a small business. The other invested every month into a diversified investment portfolio. 20 years later, both became successful, but in completely different ways. This is not a story about who became richer. It is a story about the price each person paid to build wealth. Meet Adam and Omar. Each has $50,000 in savings. Adam dreams of owning a business. Omar prefers a simple strategy. Invest consistently every month and let time do the work. Neither knows which path will win, only time will answer. The year is 2006. They are both 28 years old. They both earn $65,000 a year at jobs they are good at and mildly tired of. On a Tuesday in March, they sit in a parking lot after work and make their decisions out loud. Adam says he is going to open a coffee shop. He has found a corner unit near a hospital. 1,100 square feet. $1,400 a month in rent. He has run the numbers on a legal pad, and the legal pad says it works. Omar says he is going to keep his job. He is going to put the $50,000 into a diversified portfolio of index funds and then add $600 every single month automatically and not look at it.
This plan is so boring.
Adam laughs and calls it boring. Omar agrees. That is the entire point. 20 years from that parking lot, one of them will be worth about $950,000. The other will be worth about $586,000. But if you think the story ends there, you have missed almost everything that matters. Here is what nobody tells you about year one of a small business. The money does not disappear in a dramatic way. It leaves quietly in invoices. Adam's $50,000 is gone by month 5. Not wasted, spent. $18,000 on the espresso machine and grinders, $9,000 on the build-out, $6,000 on permits, insurance, and a health inspection that failed the first time over a hand sink 2 inches too far from the prep station. $4,000 on a point-of-sale system. $7,000 on opening inventory and the first month of payroll. By August, he has opened a $25,000 line of credit just to make payroll on time. The shop does $190,000 in revenue that first year. That number sounds enormous. Adam tells people that number at parties. What he does not tell people at parties is that after cost of goods, rent, payroll, utilities, insurance, and the loan payment, the business lost $12,000. He paid himself nothing for 11 months. Now look across town. Omar's $50,000 went into the market in March. He set up an automatic transfer of $600 on the first of every month, and he changed his direct deposit so he would never see the money sitting in checking. His entire financial life that year required about 40 minutes of attention. By the end of 2006, Omar has roughly $58,000. Adam has negative $12,000 in profit, $25,000 in debt, a business he cannot sell, and a body that has worked 70 hours a week for a year. Year 1 score, it is not close. And it is not close in the direction almost nobody expects. Then the world breaks. Between October 2007 and March 2009, the S&P 500 falls about 57%. Not correct, falls. Omar, the safe one, the boring one, opens a statement in early 2009 and sees that his portfolio has lost roughly half its value. The $50,000 he put in, plus 3 years of $600 deposits, is worth less than what he has physically deposited. He has done everything right, and he is behind. This is the moment the entire investing path actually gets decided, and it has nothing to do with math. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky showed in their 1979 work on prospect theory that losses hurt roughly twice as much as equivalent gains feel good. A 50% drop does not feel like a 50% drop. It feels like proof that you were an idiot. The research firm Dalbar has spent decades measuring what average investors actually earn versus what their own funds earn. The gap is consistently large, and it is almost entirely explained by one behavior. People sell after the drop and buy back after the recovery. Omar does something that looks like nothing. He does not sell. He does not stop the transfer. He does not check the account for 4 months. That decision, the decision to be boring during the worst market in 70 years, is worth more to his final number than every fun choice he ever made. Meanwhile, Adam is having a very different 2008. His revenue drops 22%. Hospital staff stop buying the $5 drink. He cuts his own pay to $9,000 for the year. He lets his one full-time barista go and works the counter himself 6 days a week. He negotiates his rent down by $200 a month by agreeing to a longer lease. A decision that will matter enormously later. He comes within about 6 weeks of closing. 2 men, same crisis. One survives it by doing nothing. One survives it by doing everything. 2010 through 2013 is where the story stops being dramatic and starts being real. Adam's shop turns a corner. The neighborhood fills in. He takes home $52,000 in 2010, his first year earning less than a rounding error, and also his first year earning less than the job he quit. Read that again, year 5, and he has just now caught up to the salary he walked away from in year 0. In 2012, he does the thing that separates a job you own from a business. He opens a second location. It takes a $90,000 SBA loan, and that loan comes with a personal guarantee. If the second shop fails, the bank does not take the espresso machine. It comes after his house. Omar's quiet years look like a spreadsheet. The market recovers. His balance crosses 100,000, then 150. He gets a raise, then another. He raises his monthly contribution, not dramatically, just enough to stay ahead of his own lifestyle. He also does something important that most people skip. He stops trying to be clever. Brad Barber and Terence Odeon studied more than 60,000 households in their paper, Trading is Hazardous to Your Wealth. The households that traded the most underperformed the ones that traded the least by several percentage points a year. And S&P's own SPIVA scorecards have found year after year that the overwhelming majority of professional active fund managers fail to beat their benchmark over 15 and 20-year periods. Omar is not smarter than those managers. He just isn't trying to be. By 2013, Omar has around $220,000 and about 40 minutes a year invested in managing it. By 2013, Adam has 2 locations, 11 employees, $150,000 of annual income, and a phone that goes off at 5:40 a.m. when someone calls out sick. The gap has flipped. Adam is winning now, and this is exactly the moment where the story becomes dangerous to tell, because there is a second set of books that no business owner puts in the deck. Between 2006 and 2026, Adam works an average of 65 hours a week. Omar works 42. That is 23 extra hours a week. 50 weeks a year. For 20 years. 23,000 hours. 23,000 hours is not a statistic. It is roughly 2.5 years of a human life. Awake, spent standing in a room that smells like burnt milk. Adam misses his daughter's first-grade play because a walk-in cooler failed. He takes exactly 4 real vacations in 20 years, and on 3 of them, he does payroll from a hotel bathroom, so the sound of the laptop doesn't wake anyone. His marriage goes through a 2-year stretch that his wife will later describe kindly as roommate years. In 2020, the dining rooms close for 4 months. He keeps both shops alive on takeout, a PPP loan, and a landlord who remembers that he signed a long lease in 2008. And here's the part that is hardest to put a number on. For 20 years, Adam is never fully off. Not on Sundays, not at dinner, not at 2 a.m. when the alarm company calls. Omar's ledger has a different shape. He has a boss he does not like in 2011 and a reorganization he survives in 2017. He is bored a lot. He watches Adam's Instagram, the second location, the third, the newspaper feature, and there are entire years where he quietly believes he chose wrong. That is Omar's real cost, not risk, doubt. 20 years of wondering if boring was just a word for scared. Now we have to be honest about something or this entire video is a lie. We are telling you Adam's story because Adam's business survived. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Business Employment Dynamics data, roughly 1 in 5 new businesses closes within its first year. About half are gone by year 5. And about 65%, roughly 2 out of every 3, are closed by year 10. So when you watch Adam's arc, understand what you are actually looking at. You are looking at the 1 in 3 outcome. The other 2 Adams exist, they just don't get interviewed. Those Adams also spent $50,000. They also worked 70-hour weeks, and a lot of them also signed a personal guarantee, which means they did not walk away at zero. They walked away below zero, with debt that outlived the business that created it. There is a well-known 1988 study by Arnold Cooper, Carolyn Wu, and William Dunkelberg that surveyed nearly 3,000 entrepreneurs. 81% of them put their own odds of success at 70% or better. 1 in 3 said their odds were 100%, zero chance of failure. The base rate said otherwise. It always says otherwise. This is not an argument against starting a business. It is an argument against comparing one person's best case to another person's average case and calling it a fair fight. Omar's path has a narrow range of outcomes. Boring on the downside, boring on the upside. Adam's path has an enormous range. The version you are watching is near the top of it. It is 2026. Both men are 48. Adam now has 3 locations. After paying his managers and himself, the business throws off about $310,000 a year in owner earnings. In February, a regional group makes an offer. Small businesses like this trade at a multiple of owner earnings. Adams sells at roughly 2.8 times, $868,000. Then reality takes its cut. The broker takes 10%, $87,000. The remaining SBA balance takes $60,000. Capital gains and state tax take roughly $130,000. Adam nets about $591,000 from 20 years of building. But that is not all he has. Starting in 2014, once the business finally had room to breathe, Adam began investing $1,500 a month into the same kind of boring index portfolio Omar had been using since 2006. 12 years of that, compounding, is about $360,000. Adam's total, 2026, roughly $951,000. Omar never had a windfall. He had a transfer on the first of the month. The original $50,000, compounded for 20 years at 8%, is about $233,000. $600 a month for 240 months, at the same rate, is about $353,000. Omar's total, 2026, roughly $586,000. A quick note on the assumptions because you should never accept a number in a video like this without them. I used 8% annual returns, deliberately below the long-run historical average of US stocks, because averages are not promises. I held both men's lifestyle spending roughly equal, because both of them lived on what their work paid them. And I used a business sale multiple in the normal range for a 3-location food business, not a fairy tale one. Under those assumptions, Adam ends up with about $365,000 more than Omar. He won. On the scoreboard, clearly. Now divide. $365,000 of extra wealth, 23,000 extra hours of work, $15.87. Every additional hour Adam worked. Every 5 a.m. open, every Sunday inventory count. Every night he drove back to the shop because the alarm tripped. Bought him about $16 of additional net worth. $16 an hour before you subtract the risk that 2 out of 3 versions of him didn't make it this far. That is the real headline, and it is not the one that sells courses. But be careful, because the reverse conclusion is just as lazy. Adam did not buy $16 an hour. He bought something Omar will never have. An asset he created out of nothing, that employed 31 people over 2 decades, that had his name on the awning, and that someone eventually wanted badly enough to write a 7-figure offer for. He learned to hire, to fire, to negotiate a lease, to survive a recession and a pandemic. Those are not on a balance sheet, and they do not go away when the business is sold. And Omar did not buy safety. He bought time, 23,000 hours of it. He coached soccer. He was home at 6:15. He read to his son every night for 11 years. He has never once been woken up by an alarm company. 2 men, same money, same start. One converted time into equity. The other converted patience into equity. If you are trying to figure out which path is yours, ignore the returns. The returns are the least useful part of this story. Ask these 4 questions instead. First, what is your actual tolerance for 0? Not for a bad month. For 0. For the month where the account is empty, payroll is Friday, and it is entirely your problem. Omar's worst case in 20 years was a scary statement. Adam's worst case was losing his house. If the thought of that keeps you up at night in a way you can't switch off, that is not weakness. That is information. Second, is your income lumpy or smooth? And can your life absorb it? Adam earned nothing for 11 months, then $9,000 in a year, then eventually $300,000. If you have a mortgage, a medical condition, or dependents who need consistency, lumpy income is not just uncomfortable. It is structurally risky. Third, do you want to own a business, or do you want to own the idea of owning a business? Most of what Adam did for 20 years was not entrepreneurship. It was scheduling. It was mopping. It was talking a 19-year-old out of quitting. If the daily version of the work isn't tolerable, the exit number will never be big enough to make it so. Fourth, and this is the one almost nobody asks, what do you plan to do with the money? Because here is the thing that should have been obvious from the first minute of this video, and almost never is. Adam's endgame was to sell the business and invest the proceeds. Omar's endgame was to keep investing. In 2026, both of them own the same thing, a diversified portfolio. Adam just took a 20-year, high-risk, 65-hour-a-week detour to get to the same instrument Omar has been quietly using since the parking lot. The business was never the destination. It was a very expensive, very powerful, very dangerous engine for producing capital, which means the honest answer to business or investing is not either. It is, investing is the destination, and a business is one of several roads to it. The fastest one, the one with the widest shoulders and no guardrails. 20 years after that Tuesday in the parking lot, Adam and Omar still meet for coffee. At one of Adam's old shops, which he no longer owns. Adam has more money. Omar has more Tuesdays. Neither of them thinks the other one was wrong. And that is the part that most videos about money will never tell you, because it depends on who you are doesn't fit on a thumbnail. But it is true. There is no universally correct path. There is only the price tag, and whether you knew what you were paying before you paid it. Adam paid 23,000 hours and 2 out of 3 odds. Omar paid 20 years of watching someone else's highlight reel and wondering. Both of them got paid. So here's the only question that actually matters, and I want you to answer it honestly, out loud, before you close this video. If you had been in that parking lot in 2006, knowing everything you just watched, which door do you walk through? Tell me in the comments. Not which one is smarter, which one is actually yours.